What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Martian and Ozzy podcast. This week, we're going to be analyzing the Andrade versus Blanchfield card going down this weekend from the UFC Apex. Short UFC card, only 11 fights, and excited to break them down with my co-host. As always, how we doing this week, my man?
Yeah, so coming into hot off the that last pay-per-view card, much weaker offering, for this week here. Not that many, relevant fights overall other than kind of like the main event, I would say. So we'll get through it kind of in due ample time, hopefully hit on a few, fights that catch the eye, but it's a little bit of a bleak one here. I kind of like next week's a lot better though.
Yeah, and we are doing some alternate recording methods here, using StreamYard instead of Discord for a change due to some technical difficulties. So hopefully everything goes smoothly. Um, Just a quick rundown of last week. I tracked some bets, lost 1.09 units overall. Terrible bets on Shane Young, Parker Porter, the under in the Malarkey fight. That was no good. Mel Six, pretty bad beat there. I know Ozzy
That
was on that
Melsick
one.
one that Melsick one was a little that one left me a little salty just because I mean, those kind of losses like that. I mean, obviously, Kulabel did have big advantage on the ground. And I do think a few of these guys they did benefit. Like I honestly was not aware, and this is a mistake by me, that the local time that was 8 a.m. local time, or when they were fighting. So I wasn't sure. I think I should have like dialed that in a little bit. Um, but uh, but I think that definitely did play a not play a factor, but I feel like the local guys did benefit a bit from that. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think we made a fine bet. Couple unders I had were, easy bets. I was kind of a coward for not going bigger on them. The Emmett Rodriguez and the Cleaton Ross one. I was pretty confident in those.
The Emmett
So
one
those
was
were,
a really good one. That was a really good one, and
yeah,
the
that
Randy Brown
Yair,
one.
Yair triangle was fucking dope. Sick performance from Yair to
Yeah.
get the belt.
The Randy Brown Jack Della under was good. The main event over 2.5. I ended up betting, being on that. That was kind of probably my biggest bet of the night, other than Melsick. So yeah, it was good.
Main
Solid.
event delivered big time. I kind of criticized the booking of it and everything, but man, that shit delivered in every way possible. Amazing fight. I honestly
Yeah,
think it'll go down as one of the best fights ever.
yeah, it was a great fight. I mean, I'm good with not having to see it again. I'm definitely interested in seeing Volk in future fights at 155. I'd love to see him against Dustin Poirier. I would love to see a fight against between him and McGregor, even though he'd kill McGregor. But I'd love to see a Dustin Poirier fight, and a bunch of other ones. So, Volkanovski's stock definitely did not go down. I think he's got a worthy challenger in Yair. Coming from that southpaw stance as well. But he probably could do the Frankie Edgar game plan to him, but we'll see. Should hope to see that fight at some point though this year.
Yeah, and then we got to get our boy Benny Bills. Got to get him in the title picture at 155, fighting
Benny
Islam next, hopefully.
Benny Bills is a good soldier. No, he's fighting Charles though. They confirmed that.
Really? Yeah. Well,
Yes.
I like him in that fight. And I think he'll continue to roll on. But that's enough about last week. We got some fights coming up this week. Only 11 fights. A lot of low level fights. I think like 6 guys making their UFC debut, which seems to be the norm now. So let's get right into it. First fight, flyweight division. Juan Ronderos taking on Clayton Carpenter. Carpenter, big favorite. Minus 305. Ronderos coming back at plus 250. So, I mean, I just think Ronderos is a really terrible grappler. I think that Carpenter is, semi well rounded. I think he's like okay everywhere. I think his striking has a lot to work on, but he shoots takedowns. He seems fairly active from top, passing guard, achieving good positions. I've seen him mount a lot of guys too. And Ronderos, I mean, just looks like a terrible grappler to me. So I think Carpenter shouldn't have any issues here. Even on the feet, I don't think he's in much danger. And I think Carpenter will probably finish on the ground at some point. Um, Hard to make a decision between the KO and the sub, but I think the sub is the way to go with Carpenter at plus 260, plus 280 out there. Any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Carpenter had a fun fight on the Contender Series. I did see him as well when he was going through LFA, and it was very impressive. I think he landed, a really really impressive head kick at one point. Knocked the guy out. There a guy that was not extremely touted, but okay touted. And kind of just has a submission game as well. So I think he should get the win here against Juan here. I mean, Juan, I'm just not sure where he's at. Obviously he had a suspension. He came in on short notice against Dvorak, but there he kind of didn't look like a high ceiling guy to me overall. And I just don't really know what kind of game plan he's gonna come out there with. Um, but over to 1.5, like it kind of appeals to me a little bit, but I'm gonna just pass. On this first fight of the night, but the over there just because Carpenter, he's still very young in his career, and I don't know if he's fought any Mexicans yet. So, or the last guy was a Mexican and he couldn't finish him, so that might
Does
carry on.
Ecuadorians count?
Or
Isn't that what the
oh,
I
excuse me,
think?
you know what I mean. But the guy is the guy's. The I feel like
Oh, he's Colombian.
I feel like Juan, excuse me. I feel like Juan's grappling. I think like for a guy like him, that should be like one skill that does improve for him. I don't think he's ever gonna be a great striker. So I think you could see some ground improvements from him, but you know, I'm gonna passing it overall.
Yeah, year and a half layoff, so possible to see some improvements. But next fight, welterweight division, AJ Fletcher taking on Themba Gorimba. Gorimba making his UFC debut. Fletcher, the favorite here, minus 265. Gorimba plus 225. Anything you see on Gorimba's tape that makes you think he's got a shot here?
I don't have too many thoughts on this one other than, you know, I'll just talk about Fletcher. Fletcher's fights have been really, really fun to watch. He has a pretty good submission, like ground game, like grappling game between the takedowns, the submission, the strength to keep guys on bottom, to keep guys from kind of getting up, even when they have maybe like a leverage and stuff like that. And if they don't, if they aren't kind of like have good leverage, like where Summelsberger, that I think in that third round when he got back on top of Fletcher, it was because of kind of Fletcher just being a little smaller and kind of getting beat to position a bit. It wasn't really something that a lot of times, a normal size guy will be able to replicate. Demba looks to me like he doesn't really know, like he has skills in a few different places, but they're not very well developed. Like I've seen him throw a few strikes and shoot at takedowns, or a takedown. I've seen him just kind of throw strikes, on the outside. Um, Not a fight again. Another one, unfortunately, that I'm interested in. I'm betting on. Um, is this like a replacement? Yeah, is Fletcher's coming in on? I don't know. Was Fletcher
Billy
scheduled
Goff. It
as
was supposed to be
well?
Billy Goff
Right. I
versus
know Billy.
Gorimba.
I know Billy. So yeah, Fletcher, like I don't know, is he not, is there a camp involved here? Um, maybe the over, but I think Fletcher should be able to get a submission here, but maybe the over 1.5, 2.5. Fletcher's submission 3-1, over 3-1. That's not bad.
I don't think over is the move because Fletcher is just so front loaded. Like this guy starts fast. He tends to gas out. So I think it is a little bit risky at this juice, but that didn't stop me from parlaying this guy. By the way, I have another parlay this week. Last week's worked out miraculously 3 for 3. And this week, already have one leg down in Carpenter in the last fight. Then the Fletcher will be the second leg. The third leg will be coming up later. For Garimba, I just saw him be such a bad grappler in this Ferreira fight. He's not only taken down, he lays on his back for long periods of time, and he is completely flat on his back. He does not know how to get to a hip. He does not know how to escape. Excuse me, bottom position at all. So, I mean, if you have no idea how to defend takedowns or get off your back, I think Fletcher should be good to take him down. And I don't even see that much of a striking threat from Garimba here. So, I think Fletcher will be good. By the way, Fletcher's fight against Lusa, I rewatched that. Fucking banger of a fight, great fight. So that was a fun one. Next fight is in the lightweight division. or light heavyweight division, OSP, Ovince St. Preux taking on Felipe Lins. Lins is the favorite here, minus 205. Ovince St. Preux, plus 175. I mean, I think Lins should be good here. I kind of see Lins coming off of a good win, competitive fight over a relevant fighter in Prachnio, and then I see OSP struggling and arguably losing his last fight to an irrelevant fighter in Mauricio Shogun Hua, who we know is just old
What?
and
What did you just say? What did you just say?
Mauricio Shogun Hua is an irrelevant fighter in the year 2022. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Um, and I mean he was struggling in that fight. I mean, me and Ozzy were probably live betting the shit out of Shogun in that fight, and eventually losing. But I mean, he was.
That was a
I was pretty.
robbery. That was a
Yeah,
robbery.
I thought Shogun won that shit, but
Shogun won, bro. Why do people? You see, why do people? They'll say like, "Oh no, the fight, whatever. This guy clearly won." And then when you're like, kind of like actually asking them about it, they're like, "Well, no, the first two rounds were close." Like, well, either way, those first two rounds, what the hell did Ovin Prue do? He just kicked them in the body, and Shogun's kick him in the legs and punch him in the face. Like, that was a horrible fight for OSP. And I'm famously OSP's keeper. This guy, I love this guy, but last fight was horrible. And did he even make weight for that fight? I think he did make weight, but he's only made 205 like one time in the last like 4 years. And that was the last fight.
yeah, knocked out
Simple.
twice in a row before that too.
Yeah. He has not done good at 205, dude. Even against Mikau. Remember the Mikau fight? He's getting wasted on the feet before that.
He did clown our boy Lonzo Menifield though that one time. But yeah. So I assume anything else you want to add to this one before we move on.
Oh, I mean Felipe Lins. Lins I thought looked okay against Prachnio, especially in that third round. He went for those takedowns, I believe, if I remember right. Maybe it was the end of the second round. But it's a similar kind. Prachnio is obviously different from OSP, but they're both southpaws and they both like throwing that rear left kick. And you kind of want to really kind of crowd guys like that. Get in their face. Cut off the angles a little bit. OSP you saw against Jamal Hill, that was a big weakness that he has. That when he's kind of like moving around in there, if you start kind of putting pressure on him, he's not keeping his hands up. That's a fact. That's for sure. And he kind of looks to like bob and bob away from shots a little bit. And I don't know if that's really going to work with Lins. Lins has pretty good boxing. He's got a significant reach, like 78, 79 inches, something like that. So he should, if once he's able to kind of get out of kicking range, he should be able to land shots even as OSP's looking to, back away. So I think Lin should be, I think he's a deserved favorite. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt as well, so he doesn't have like a big hole in his ground game. So I mean, if this goes down a little bit further, I think I'll consider playing on Lins because I just think that OSP just doesn't have a lot of the volume. He needs like a big shot, he needs like a big knockout shot, and he just, at 205, I don't know if he got a lot of those in him.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Linz's takedown defense is pretty good too, so it's not going to be easy to take him down. Next fight I'm excited for, featherweight division, Jamal Emmers taking on Emmers-Askhabov, making his long-awaited UFC debut. Askhabov favorite, minus 145, Jamal Emmers plus 125. So 23-0, undefeated Russian prospect, Askhabov.
Epic.
Let us know your thoughts on the newcomer here.
So was this Ashkavov's always like first fight that they had scheduled, or did he? What's the
No.
original first fight that he had?
Joe
scheduled?
Anderson Brito in
Joe Anderson
August of
Brito.
21, and then he was supposed
Oh,
to fight Herbert Burns
oh,
when Bilal
yes, I
Algier
remember
replaced him.
that one. I remember the Herbert Burns one. Um, so yeah, I mean, this fight, I don't really have an opinion on it. Unfortunately, I hate having the just go on. Obviously, Jamal Emmers is back. Jamal Emmers, we famously had there's big Jamal Emmers supporters out there. Is all I can say. All right, big salty ones that they're really hoping he gets back on the scoreboard. In a big way here. And I've liked Jamal Emmers. In a few of his fights. In his regional fights, he came up. He kind of was like a well-rounded guy. Big for 145, good reach. Has kind of like some Muay Thai, a little bit of boxing, is a little like can wrestle a little bit. jiu-jitsu is a little sketchy. His leg lock defense is not the best. Um, but an aggressive guy and kind of could push a pace. He's been in later fights before. I think he fought for like the LFA belt or one of those belts. He went into the later rounds. But this other guy, I don't really know too much about him. All I know is he hasn't fought in forever. He's smaller. He looks kind of like he's like that prototypical Russian, but like he looks like a little bit of a suspect Russian. Like he doesn't look like a top tier Russian to me. He looks like maybe like a better version of which Russian would you compare this Russian to? You think the most? Like, does one come to mind a bit for you or no?
Maybe like Tagir Ulanbekov or something. I don't know.
To gear like him? I don't know. He just What do you think is his best before I kick it over to you complete? What do you think is his best skill? Is like you think his wrestling or what do you
That's
like
a. I think. I mean, he finds a way to finish fights. That's
he
one good
finishes
thing I could say
guys?
him. But I don't know, man. I really don't like striking. I guess. I mean, just maybe he's got a little bit of pop, but I don't know. I'm at
I
a
have no
loss.
idea. Like, look, I've watched. I'll tell you, I've watched two and a half of the guys' fights, and then I was like, well, what am I doing? Like, I don't like Jamal Emmers, or like I don't feel like betting on Jamal Emmers. In this comeback fight, torn up knee, little sus, before that. But I would only bet on Jamal Emmers. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the guy's coming up to 145. He's kind of like a younger guy as well. Suspect record. Um, but I don't know. This is not the kind of fight that I feel very big on. But you go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even have like a definitive idea of like the question you gave to me, like what his strengths and weaknesses are. I just get big time fraud vibes from this guy. I mean, his a lot of his opponents, almost all of them, are nobodies. In his like 16th fight, he's still fighting guys with like terrible records, um and then if we just look at his recent activity, hasn't fought in 3 years, hasn't been at a round one in 5 years, and hasn't been to the decision in 6 years. So I just think that there's so little footage and evidence of this guy being any good. While Jamal Emmers, he fought Thiago Moises in 2016. He fought he has a win over Corey Sandhagen. Fought Julian Erosa, Giga Chikadze. This guy's been at the higher level of MMA for more than half a decade now. So I just feel like there's such a better picture of like where he's at of a quality of a fighter than Ashkabov, where it could be, he might actually be like this legit, prospect that we haven't that took forever to get to the UFC, or he might just be a total bum who people are going to be looking at like how was this guy favored over Jamal Emmers? And I think that that's the opportunity that I'm going to be betting
I don't
on.
know. I don't think that's gonna happen.
No,
Jamal
I think
Emmers
this
is
guy.
not trustworthy.
I don't think this guy's going to be any good.
You
I
don't
don't
think
know.
so?
I think Emmers is like a solid everywhere. Like he doesn't excel in one area, but like in terms of like
Oh, yeah, of
he can
course.
wrestle, he can wrestle, he can strike. Cardio
Look,
I
the
think is
guy's
fine.
30. He's gonna be 34 this year. Tore up his knee, training at Team Alpha Male. Hasn't fought in almost 2 years.
Yeah, but it looks like so he was scheduled to fight early last year against Pineda, but then it got canceled. So like maybe he was planning this comeback for a while. But anyway,
This is another guy I want to see him weigh in because
I'm gonna be
this
on
guy
him.
has a tough look.
I already have a unit. I think I might add at least a half more, but I'll be on him at plus money here. You know. So that's going to be like the main event for me. That's the intrigue of the evening, and next is possibly one of the least interesting fights you could possibly put together. Lena Landsberg in the women's bantamweight division taking on Maria Bueno Silva. Bueno Silva, gigantic favorite, -500. Lena Landsberg +375 in the comeback. I mean, Lena Landsberg is she'll be turning 41 in less than a month. She's lost 3 in a row. She's never finished a woman in the UFC in her 6 years in the UFC. So she's a decision machine. She's old as shit. She hasn't won in several fights. And I think that Mario Bueno Silva is probably going to beat the shit out of her on the feet. Silva's actually a pretty, menacing woman on the feet at times. And then even if it ends up on the ground, I think that Silva will be, dangerous on top and off her back. She's gotten multiple subs off her back in the UFC. And, Lansberg, once she's flat on her back, terrible. If you remember the Sarah McMahon fight, just stuck on her back the whole time. And yeah, I think didn't Lansberg drop Carol Rosa in her last fight though for like a second? I swear that happened. Anyway, I don't see any real bettable lines. I saw some people betting the over, but man, I'm thinking that Landsberg is just so old at this point that I wouldn't even want to be touching that. So
I don't know.
what are you thinking?
Lena Landsberg is like, and this is a compliment to my girl. She is a Walmart version of Lauren Murphy. Like the
Yeah.
worst, but without even like the wrestling, or no, maybe no, she wrestled. What's her name? Macy. See, she without the jab, she does not have the legendary the lucky Lauren jab. If only, like I said, if there were 2 more rounds in that Andrade fight, you never know, Andrade. Maybe she would have completely broken one of her hands. You never know, bro. And then Lauren would
And then she
jab
would
her
have
up.
only been up,
No, Lauren.
4 rounds.
Hey! That was the year of the 5th round finish. Have you not learned? But look, let me get
No, that
into
was
it.
that. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I said if it did have 5 rounds. Now, I see what you mean with the thing with the over with thinking that Myra is just gonna kill her. But I don't know, man. Bueno Silva, she just I guess like she could finish girls, but sometimes she just be fucking around or like she'll put the girl in like so much danger. Like it's like fun for her. Like she's just like looking to get like an adrenaline rush. Like putting the girls in submissions and then not finishing them like that Woo girl. Remember she couldn't even submit Woo, bro. Like and
I do remember that.
Woo is terrible, dude. Woo is one of the worst fighters ever.
But do you remember
Um
that fight? Because I truly have no recollection of like how that
Yeah, I
fight actually
remember that.
went.
Bro, that was it was a close fucking fight for a little bit, and then Bueno Silva started land I mean, it was kind of a crazy fight because Bueno Silva was, like, landing some big shots on her. But she had, like, her in, like, a guillotine or, like, a triangle or some shit like that, I forgot. Um, but she has no ability to get it to the ground, so how is she gonna get Lena Landsberg to the ground? And I don't really trust her to knock her out. I mean, Lena Landsberg is the warden. That she's not going down from no strikes. It would have to be a body strike. Um
You're right, but never landed a takedown in the UFC.
Never, never, and her submission line is plus 200.
Yeah, that's not good.
That's fucking funny, dude. That's pretty funny. That's on some Ortega shit, but Ortega is not even that bad. You know
So
Ortega
KO is the side.
I had Ortega submission like 8-1 against Bulk, bro. That should have
Shit
hit.
bet.
That
Shit
should
bet.
have hit, dude. I can't believe he didn't finish that triangle. That was disgraceful. T-City, change your name.
All right. We are moving along. Fun fight here. Lightweight division.
Great fight.
Nazim Sadykhov making his UFC debut. Evan Elder fighting again for the second time at his natural weight class. Nazim minus 190, Elder plus 165. I remember liking Elder coming in his last fight and actually
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
betting the guy versus
Yeah.
Parsons, and then
Oh, you
Parsons
got
was
dump
just
truck.
Parsons was 2 weight classes bigger in there and just destroyed on the entire fight. And truly probably one of the worst bets I've ever made.
You know that's one. This is a fight that I'm gonna predict. Preston Parsons will fight Kevin Lee in their career. Those two will fight. Kevin Lee now recently signed in the welterweight roster in the UFC. For those who have
That,
not been paying
that's a
attention,
good one. I got Parsons in that one. Anyway,
Parsons
Nazim
is a
look
good prospect.
Nazim's looking good, man. I mean, good fighter. I think he's skilled everywhere. Got some pop in his hands. Just slept that last guy on the Contender
Oof,
Series.
that boy,
And
that
he's
Syrian guy
finished
or Palestinian, whatever he was. Oof, that was bad.
finished 6 of his 7 pro wins. Coming from the Northeast area, New
That's
York, New
right. Let him
Jersey,
know.
fighting in CFFC, succeeding. So I wish this guy the best. I think he will win the fight. I think he is better than Elder, but I think Elder is just like, skilled enough everywhere to hang around here, and he showed some incredible toughness in that Parsons fight. So I think he'll hang around here and make his way to the decision, and I think it'll be a Nazim decision. So I kind of lean over 2.5 here. I only just think that I just don't see Elder finishing Nazim. So if it's going to be a finish, I think it's gonna have to be a Nazim KO, and I just don't think it's as likely as the odds indicate here. So I like the over or the goes the distance.
Yeah, I love, you worded it nicely, or you used the right word. When you First thing you need to know about Elder, this guy is a tough son of a bitch, okay? Because he could have taken a way out against that dude Preston Parsons at multiple different points in that fight. He got battered. He was getting put in chokes, getting his face elbowed in. It was bad. He was getting killed in that fight. And Preston Parsons is a player. I don't know who's he fighting next. He's fighting who the fuck is he
I'll
fighting?
investigate.
He's fighting next month though. He's fighting in San Antonio, which I was thinking about going to that San Antonio card actually.
Trevin
Um,
Giles
Trevin Giles, Officer Giles in Texas. So
in
that'll
Texas,
be
yeah.
that'll be an interesting fight. Now Nazim, like you said, another Sarah Longo guy. The striking that he showed against the last guy in Contender Series was just phenomenal. The guy was just so accurate, and he could just put his foot, his elbow, his fist, his knee, wherever you wanted on that guy's body. Like he was just busting them up with everything that he threw. It was just incredibly accurate, and his cardio showed pretty nicely there. I think the only concern I would have is, like I said, Elder's really tough. Nazim maybe either being on the back foot or throwing too many of these like really powerful strikes and tiring out, and then Elder maybe like looking for some takedowns, like finishing some takedowns on him. But I don't really think Elder has the kind of grappling that Nazim. I mean, I grappling good enough to really pose a big threat to Nazim once they are on the ground. I think he's solid on the ground. I just think that they're probably comparable, or maybe even like a little edge submission grappling to Nazim actually. But we'll see. I do like him here. I do think he will win. I think maybe like here is probably not great value here just because both guys are a little bit unproven, but Nazim maybe mostly more so just because I don't know how many decisions he has been to, but I mean he looked good late into that last fight, and he was, I mean, just hitting that guy with the kitchen sink. So Sarah Longo Go Burr, New York, we're out here. I think he gets the W over Evan Elder.
One thing I will say though is like from a market, reaction perspective, Elder just got destroyed by a guy on short notice up a weight class. While Nazim, I just think that Contender Series fight, if you guys remember, he spinning back kicked his opponent like 5 seconds into the fight, and that opponent just never recovered. So I feel there could be like a little bit of like an overcorrection going on. So I kind of lean Elder being the side here.
I kind of like
I
the
think,
over
yeah, that's what I was saying. I like the over. Um,
because
so
I don't, oh, like we were saying, like I don't think Elder's finishing Nazim.
no,
And
that
if
would
it
be
is, it would,
surprising.
if he does, it's like going to be a nutritional finish. It will not be
Yeah.
like a one hitter quitter.
Next fight could be a sad one here. Lightweight division. Jim Miller taking on Alex Hernandez. Hernandez is the favorite at minus 225. Jim Miller plus 190. So this is a situation I think we should always be wary of. Is the fighter that's coming in on short notice is favored and almost pretty heavily favored over the fighter with the full training camp. So you weary of this one at all, Ozzy?
Man, Jim Miller's such a fucking legend, dude. The first, I've seen Jim Miller. The joke was I've seen Jim Miller fight so many times, right? And he's always fighting in the Northeast, New York, New Jersey, New York, New Jersey. And man, the guy was taking a lot of L's, man, between those two states. I remember when he got guillotined. When he got guillotined by Nate Diaz, dude. I bought tickets, dude. The tickets were so crazy cheap back then. It was insane. It was like in the Devils. It was like in Prudential Center. Um, but he got choked out there. And then when Pat Healy choked him out and he faked like he went unconscious. But Jim Miller is still a legend. I'm not trying to uh disparage Jim Miller, okay? And I love that he's on a 3-fight win streak here. I love the matchmaking that they, and the fucking Gabriel Benitez fight was such a good one as well. I'm fucking so pissed that they, I mean, imagine Jim Miller on a 4-fight fucking win streak, dude, in 2023. Are you kidding me?
Going
Um,
into UFC 300. Remember, he's
dude,
UFC 100, 200, 300.
bro, it'd be so crazy if he's able to pull this off. But Hernandez is a much tougher fight, obviously. The guy, but the guy got ripped apart by freaking Billy Q in his last fight. And let's not
Broken.
forget, broken. And Martian, Alex Hernandez's record is 13-6. Okay. Not that great. 30 years old now. He's not a prospect anymore. But like he has fought obviously tough guys. The Moicano fight was a tough one for him. Then the desperation going down to 145. But he took a lot of damage in that last fight. Now, what is this? This is a little more than 2 months later, so about 9 weeks apart from that fight. Man, that was a beatdown that he took there. What is he gonna do here? Is he gonna look to blitz Jim Miller? Is like I don't know, like Jim Miller for all his weaknesses, yeah, he's not the fastest guy, whatever it is. In the pocket, not bad. He's pretty solid there, right? He taught Nicholas Moda, a lesson in there. Eric Gonzalez, there's a bunch of guys where he's in the pocket with him, throwing with him, and he kind of makes out all right, typically. At the very least, he's not a guy that's kind of getting detonated on. And Alex Hernandez isn't what I would say is precise all the time. Sometimes he's sharp, sometimes he's real timid. Um, is he gonna look to wrestle? I don't really know what his game plan is gonna be. He obviously needs to get a win here. 13-7 would be horrible, right? You're not even the 66% win percentage there. But I mean, I think Jim Miller's a live dog here against Hernandez. I can see Hernandez shooting a takedown on Jim guillotining him. But I could also see, Hernandez grinding him out with wrestling for sure, putting him on the cage, similar to like Scott Holtzman, but with more pace and more up down takedowns and stuff like that. So I think that Hernandez probably will get his win here, but I would definitely not back him at that juice price.
Yeah, so what you just mentioned, the wrestling. I mean, he could, but what if he takes him down early, he wins? What's going to happen in round 2? Like this guy, let's go back and look at some of his fights. He's been finished in round 2 in the UFC 4 times. And if you look at, he has the knockout over Gritzmacher, knockout over Breeden. He lost to Francisco Trinaldo, but got gifted a decision there. So you really could go all the way back to the OAM fight, 4.5, 5 years ago, to name a fight where he's actually won when the fight went outside of round 1. So that, I mean, I think this guy just has terrible cardio. He does not know how to manage his cardio. He does not know how to, pace himself at all, and it's a consistent problem. Do we think that he's gonna fix it off of 9 weeks, like Ozzy was saying? I sure as hell don't. This guy's going back and forth between the weight classes, getting rocked and finished in both of the weight classes. I think he's lost right now, and he took this fight thinking it was a big name to get himself back in the win column. I mean, it's a high risk fight, honestly, because Jim Miller, complete veteran. I think that he will, not be outclassed unless Hernandez just blitzes him early and gets him out of there in under 2 minutes with just throwing some punches at him. I have a hard time believing that Alexander Hernandez is going to cover minus 200 here if we see more than just a round of their fighting. I mean, I honestly think if I know Jim Miller has been gassing out as the fights go on lately, but he's coming off a round 2 finishes in a row. Oh shit, man. I just found the fucking narrative. It's Jim Miller round 2. It's Jim
Jim
Miller
Miller
round
round
2.
two. What's that paying?
It's got to be 9-1 or something at least. They better give it to
Pretty
us.
good.
To plus 1,000, not plus 900. So
You see Jim
that's
Miller's
the
sub
script.
though. You see Jim Miller's submission is plus 400 or 500. That
Mhm.
sub it's a guillotine, right?
Yeah.
That would be the
The,
most favored choke or submission by
But even if Hernandez shoots a sloppy shot, I could see Miller reversing and rear naked choking. I mean, Jim Miller is a fucking junkyard dog. Probably I'd put him up there with Jim Gandolfini as one of the best New Jerseyans of all time.
uh,
Um,
listen, I'm
so
telling you right now, Jim Miller is ready for war on Saturday. Is Alex Hernandez? I don't know.
That's true. Yeah,
Jim
we're on
Miller,
team Miller here. We
Jim
don't
Miller
know
is
don't know if we'll be backing him with real dollars yet, but man, we're
no,
cheering
fuck
for
it. I'm
him in
betting.
spirit.
I'm gonna have some exposure to Jim Miller just because. I mean, like, dude, you saw what Billy Q did to him. Like, that was, dude. I don't know. That changes you, in my opinion. When you're in the fight business,
And it
that's
keeps
not.
happening. This guy keeps getting broken. I mean, Moises pitched a shutout 30-27. Trinaldo lulled him into a decision. Cerrone knocked him out. Dober knocked him out. Moicano submitted him. Quarantillo knocked him out. I mean,
And we've seen when he does not have his confidence that he just is not the guy that you think he like that he's supposed to be. And how could you be confident after that last fight? Like, and
yeah.
what he put his body through as well to make that one for. He said his dick didn't work. What?
Yeah,
Like
I just think it's hilarious when like
what?
he clearly had to plan that weight cut forever. Like he had to have been, okay, it's time to diet, time to cut. You got to get a nutritionist, and then it just doesn't work. He's like, fuck it, we'll just go back. It wasn't worth it. We'll just go back.
Mm,
um,
I hope Jim.
he's
I
going through.
hope Jim wins.
Me too. Main card time, 4-fight main card, kind of rare. Interesting too. The two light heavyweight fights, a heavyweight fight, and then a women's flyweight. So, William Knight, Thick Willie, taking on Marcin Prachnio in the first fight. Prachnio is the dog plus 100. William Knight minus 120. I like Prachnio here. I mean, William Knight to me he's kind of checked out as well. Like kind of what we're just talking about. I mean, he missed weight by 10 pounds for his fight. Then he moved up to heavyweight and now he's moving back down. I mean, and the thing is at heavyweight where he didn't have to cut weight is the first time we really saw him like quit in a fight where Devin Clark just hit him with an elbow and you just saw William Knight just be like, fuck this. I don't want any more. The fight's over. He weighed 251 for that fight, guys. 251. And we're supposed to believe he's going to make 206 coming in on Friday morning. I mean, that's 45 pounds. where, where the fuck is that weight going to go? Anyway, I mean, if this stays standing, I mean, Prachnio is going to be way bigger than him. He throws a lot more strikes. He actually knows how to use his length and his kicks. And Prachnio got a bad rep for a while because he got knocked out by some big hitters. But I think he's actually a better fighter than people, than the market had an idea of. And just came off a competitive decision against Lins. I think he won the first round and then dropped the last two there. Kind of gassed out there, but I mean,
He
Knight's a
did
gasser
gas.
too.
He did
Yeah,
gas. That
yeah.
was not a good look.
Knight's a gasser too, though. And but Ozzy brought up a good point. The Knight could maybe mix in some wrestling here because he has taken some people down, William Knight. So be on the lookout for that. But I think Prachnio will be fine here. What about you?
I mean, this fight's hilarious. This is a funny fight. The more I think about it, but like, I mean, if someone like William Knight, like, how can you bet on him before the weigh-ins? Like we said, like I just couldn't do that. Pacquiao, I didn't like the fact that he gassed against Lins. Like, yeah, he's got some good kicks, obviously. He throws them to the body and to the head, and he's got kind of like a weird striking style. But this is like he's still a little like too untrustworthy for me to want to even back him, even that minute juice, like this small number, just because, obviously, yeah, he survived against Khalil and I don't know some of these guys, but he's still suspect. Like, he's still the guy that walked face first into like Sam Alvey hooks and stuff like that. So I actually think,
He's reformed.
yeah, he's reformed. But I actually think this fight will not go the distance. If I could get a good number on the under 2.5, I think I would like that. Maybe it doesn't start around 3 if it's not too juiced. But maybe under 1.5. I don't know. I kind of like this fight. These boys to get busy in some way. I'm not gonna bet the under. Um, I don't know. Maybe I gotta look at that
But
one ahead
ends
of the total.
KO. Oh, the price on that is terrible. Never mind.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's gonna happen here, but I think that Thick Willie is gonna look to create
The
action.
prices are pretty bad. The prices are pretty bad on the times here. I actually think that goes the distance is the side.
Yeah, but I feel like Thick Willie is gonna look for to create action here in this fight. And Pacquiao, he's gonna kind of look to like evade a little bit, but eventually they're gonna throw down.
I don't think Prachnio will finish him. I mean I think if anybody's finishing it, it'll be Willie.
Yeah, I
Like
don't like this.
they have
It's a
starts
funny
around 2
fight. It's a funny fight. I like it, but I'm not really
wow.
enthusiastic about it.
They have no scorecards at Pick'em, man. I don't know, man. I
Well,
think Knight has way more finishing equity here.
yeah, just nice, like just weird though, because like he's like the kind of guy that you're not sure sometimes like how he'll react to getting hit. Like, didn't he like one time? Who was it? The where he like acted like he got like poked in the eye, but he got punched in the eye or some shit. I don't know. He's
Hmm,
weird.
I don't remember that.
I don't know. He's a weird guy.
He is. He is a very weird guy. Um, and then let's move on. Heavyweight fight, man. Another main event quality fight here. Josh Parisian, Jamal Pogues, JP versus
Oof.
JP.
Huh.
Um, uh, we have the odds for this one. Pogues minus 240, Parisian plus 205. Um,
Yeah, I think it's
your
my
turn to
turn to
start this
start
one
it.
off. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh Lord, good
Banger of a
Jesus.
fight.
Good Jesus. Look, I mean, just another one of these fights this week, unfortunately, that I mean, this fight fucking sucks. Like both these guys, like the Parisian is a funny heavyweight. Like I made money on him. Obviously, I had him against Bedell pretty big. That was a funny fight. Pogues, he's fat as fuck. He's like he should be a 180. Like he used to fight like 185. Now he's like 255. Right? He's like Jay Collier. In his last fight, he got leg kicked, a ton by this like short, pudgy um Brazilian guy who also used to fight at like light heavyweight or excuse me, welterweight, and now he's fighting at heavyweight. So it's just a hilarious fight. And Pogues almost lost. Like, don't get me wrong. But he's got like he throws like these jabs or he's got boxing. He's kind of like, he's a little bit athletic. Um, he's like a bootleg version, like a bootleg small MMA version of like fuck. Who do it? So he's got a bit of a quick jab. His cardio looks to be pretty bad, but he has a game of like a 185er. So as he had to kind of come up, he had some high profile fights too. He fought a bunch of guys, LFA and stuff like that. But he had to kind of develop a well rounded game at those lower weight classes, and you kind of see that in some of the grappling martial arts and stuff like that, where if you're like learn guard and stuff like that, maybe when you're a lot younger or whatever it is, and you were smaller and you get big and you retain those skills, it kind of does you well. And I think some of it's maybe a little bit of a fad now. Some of these middleweights going up to heavyweight, like it's kind of interesting. And maybe more guys will start doing it, just start eating. Um, so I think the Parisian should be able to do the leg kicks, stick to the leg kicks like the last guy did. He's not very athletic, but maybe he could tire out Pogues, cage push him a little bit. Pogues is obviously much more dynamic, much quicker. Maybe has some grappling that he could use on Parisian. I would think that Parisian probably in a lot of iterations of the fight looks like a good bet at the big plus number. But the over as well is a little sketchy to me as well. All these lines on the fight are sketchy to me. So I think it'll end up being a pass for me. But I would probably entertain like a live bet on Parisian.
Yeah, I mean, I was taping Pogues and man, hilarious fights. I mean, his fights against Jordan Young, amazing. Was really on his way to winning that fight, and then
The late RIP, the late
yes,
Jordan Young. Right.
he was on his way to winning that fight, and then just like he slipped, and then he fell right into a triangle armbar and got tapped out. Amazing stuff. Alex Polizzi, just a typical LFA fight where it's a 5 round fight, but these two guys have no business being in a 5 round fight, and it's just a sloppy grappling fight. I mean, he got out grappled like that entire fight. Highly, I'm pretty sure he laid on
Alex
him the entire.
Polizzi is a D1 wrestler though.
Really? Oh, okay. Highly laid on him the whole fight, and then Renato. It's so funny. This guy he was on the Contender Series against Brigao back in the day, and he would take him down. Brigao would stand up, and then Pogues looked gassed like the entire fight. He was breathing so heavily, and then he would somehow muster up an energy and drive through a double leg takedown, and then win the round. But I actually thought that was a better performance. And then the Hanato fight, the one that Ozzy was talking about, literally one of the worst fights ever. Just nothing happened the entire fight. So such a low intensity sparring match. And for some reason the UFC signed them off that. So I guess they're just desperate for heavyweights. Also, that fight, I'm not there's a lot of theories about this Damar Hamlin clone. I think there might be a Jamal Pogues clone because 2020, he had a buzz cut, the short hair. He was a wrestler and he was a light heavyweight. Then he comes to the Contender Series. He has, an afro. He's fat and he's a jabber and he's striking. I truly think there's something to look into there.
That's what happens when Uncle Dana doesn't give you a contract, Martian, the first time.
Well, also the vaccine happened in between those two. So be aware.
A lot of
Anyway,
people acting different.
yeah, they're just changing their fighting style. So I don't know which one we're gonna get. Are we gonna get Jamal D1 wrestler Pogues, or are we gonna get the striker? If he strikes a Parisian, man, the shit's gonna be really close. Honestly, I mean, I think he can probably outpoint Parisian on the feet, just with the striking. But he would be foolish not to mix in the wrestling, because Parisian's a bad defensive wrestler. Once you get him flat on his back, he can be put there for a long time. Dontel Mays put out the blueprint for that. Parker Porter got him down as well too. So I kind of just view both these guys as a little bit harmless. I don't think either guy hits hard on the feet. Pogues, when he's on top, he doesn't really do much. If anything, I think Parisian's top game is probably the biggest threat for a finish here. So I kind of like the Parisian no scorecard prop here, plus 215 on DraftKings and FanDuel. I think that's worth it. For a small bet, wouldn't go crazy, because if Parisian gets stuck flat on his back, he could get finished. But I think that the more finishing equity here is on Parisian. So small bet for that. And I honestly think it's going to be a 15-minute Pogues decision, honestly. So maybe look to play the overs, starts around 3, goes the distance, etc.
And remember, guys, it is Black
Yep.
History.
Yep. Keep in mind the BHM narrative. A lot of these fights have that narrative, so keep that in mind. Co-main event time. You would not believe the two guys' names that I'm about to say are fighting in the co-main event in the UFC, but Zach Pauga is taking on Jordan Beverly Hills Ninja Wright, and the line for this one is Pauga minus 270, Jordan Wright plus 230. So
What do you think that what do you think you would have made the line of Jordan Wright to make a co-main event appearance, like when he first debuted?
plus 2,000, man.
That
2,000.
That is insane.
Looking at my Tapology though for Beverly Hills Ninja, I am 6-0 predicting his fights.
Let's go on the
So,
total, or you mean on the money line side, or in a
on the
mix?
money line. I've
On the
picked
money line.
I've picked
Let's
him
go.
winning his 2 fights, and I've picked him losing his 4. So
Tremendous. That's
yeah.
tremendous.
So the pick for this one will be KO2 Pauga, just letting you guys know. So I mean, right, moving up to light heavyweight here. Lost 3 in a row, been finished in all 3. And this guy, his skill isn't horrendous. He just has absolutely no ability to pace himself. He's kind of like a light heavyweight Alexander Hernandez at this point. But I mean, I think Pauga, not really a big puncher himself. He kind of likes to take the fight as whatever's given to him, and I think that'll lead to Wright, starting fast, maybe having a little bit of success here, and then he starts to fade as the fight goes. I mean, guys, the Dusko Todorovic fight, he took down Dusko right away. He stayed on top of Dusko the entire round. He won the round as resistance free as possible, and the round 2 starts and he's gassed out. And he gets hit with a few punches. He's concussed. He's out of it. He gets
Well, he
finished.
was trying to finish Dusko. He was going, he was doing stuff the first one.
Yeah, I guess he was throwing punches. But still, I mean, if the fight is going your way, you can't gas out in a round. So I mean, the guy has no ability to manage his cardio. So I like a bet for this fight. It's on FanDuel. It's a KO combo round prop. It is Pogues round 2, round 3 KO at plus 440. I just hope it doesn't happen in round 1.
Pauga.
Yeah. Sorry. Pauga KO round 2, round 3 plus 440. I mean, I think that's good. You can't track this bet on Bet MMA, but I really think that shit's good. Honestly, Pauga's money line is probably good. That's the third leg of the parlay, by the way. Pauga money line, Carpenter, and Fletcher. So I'll pass it over to you. Pauga KO2 is the outcome here.
Right on. I love to see that. Zach Pauga, he's down at 205 here, right? He got knocked out by Usman's brother. Usman's brother is a fucking monster. He's like 260 pounds or something like that. He's fighting Jordan Wright. Jordan Wright, like Martian told you, he wrestled, my boy Dusko to Dorovic in the first round. Even with that, I was laying juice on Dusko going into round 2. I was like, "Dude, this is easy money. Like, this
Dusko was
guy's a."
plus money, wasn't he?
I don't know, dude, but I laid some juice out on, like, Bookmaker. It was, like, minus, like, 130 or something like that. I'm like, "He's gonna kill Jordan Ray." Like, the result of round 1 does not matter. Anyway, so, but speaking about Dusko, Dusko is a guy who in reality could fight at 170. All right. The guy, I think he has fought at 170, but he could be in the UFC at 170. And Jordan Wright, right? Use the effective game plan, go for the takedowns, wrestle him, put the smaller guy on bottom, try to, land big ground and pound, wear him out. But he couldn't wear him out because he just wore himself out. And he just does not have, like, one, his chin is not good. His durability, right? So durability is not good. Then his conditioning is not good. Then he can't stay calm. You see when he's getting punched, when he's getting hit, when he's like trying to, even offensively do stuff. He's like making these faces. It's what you call leakage, is what we would call it, like leakage. Like, you get hit, you kind of like do the faces, or you kind of like squint a little bit, or you start favoring stuff like that. All of that stuff is kind of like stuff that you should be able to, mask. And Jordan Ray's just not good at it, at doing any of it. Zach Pauga is used to fighting a lot bigger guys, and I think that he should be able to defend the wrestling. I don't think that Jordan Rice will be getting clean takedowns on him. Zach Pauga used to train with all these heavyweight guys all the time, so I don't think the physicality of Jordan Wright will be an issue for him. His conditioning is good. He's got long range weapons on the feet. He's patient. He's a patient striker, so he should be able to either touch up Jordan Wright and control the fight, as where it goes, or start measuring as Jordan Wright comes in, and eventually start putting on bigger shots and eventually knocking Jordan Wright the fuck out, which I think will happen.
Just don't let it be in round 1.
Minus 140 Zach Pauga to finish to KO this fucking fraud.
There you go. There you have it. Um, Main event time was supposed to be Erin Blanchfield taking on Talia Santos, and now instead it is Erin Blanchfield taking on Jessica Andrade. Andrade coming in on short notice, but she is the favorite, minus 129. Blanchfield plus 109. Just 4 weeks removed from Andrade's one of the widest decisions we've ever seen in the UFC against Lauren Murphy. So, what are you thinking about the short notice fight? Give us your thoughts on the matchup, and let's hear it.
Yeah, so you said it's been 4 weeks in between that fight.
Yes.
4 weeks. So like I mentioned beforehand, right? Obviously, Jessica Andrade, she hurt her hands against Lawrence, so she probably has, like, at least you got to take like a week and a half off, maybe after that or something like that. I don't know. I don't know how hungry these girls are at 125, but apparently Jessica Andrade is hungry. She's taking this fight on short notice, probably getting paid a little bit of a bag. Kind of interesting for me to see Erin Blanchfield. I was in person, saw her amateur debut back in 2017, and a little more than 5 years later, she's main eventing a UFC card, and she's fighting a girl who, at when Erin made her debut the same year before, like months before, I think is when Andrade was like fighting Valentina for the title. Okay, so that's before she made her amateur debut. I'm not even talking about pro for Erin. So it's amazing that she's already here. This is a super tough matchup, though, obviously, for her to fight here. Now, that being said, obviously, if she wins this fight, she's gonna be heavily favored against everyone, right? I would think, right? You would imagine, right, Martian, other than Valentina, right? If she passes this test, I think people will definitely respect her, a ton. Maybe against Firo, whatever. But this will definitely be a crazy feather in the cap. Now, the issues, obviously, Andrade looked absolutely diabolical against, Lauren Murphy. Now, can she keep that and do that again? You would think maybe no, but the fact that the fight is so close actually to the last one, it could be where, she's just able to kind of like just maintain that maybe a little bit, maybe like a tiny bit level below. But she should be in shape. She pushed. I mean, the strikes and the power she's putting on those shots against Lauren. Not many people or girls or guys even could throw shots like that for 15 minutes like she did. It was insane. Her wrestling, her defensive grappling maybe leaves a little bit to be desired, but like I said, she's got crazy experience. And I think it's gonna be a tough fight for Erin. Now, I do like her a little bit here to get the fight to the ground. And I'm kind of like thinking of maybe playing her to like submit, like win this fight by a submission or something like that, just because she does come from like this Henzo Gracie, team and lineage where we've seen these grapplers have a lot of success and end up, kind of getting submissions or whatever it is, using that being their main attribute to win their fights. So I'm kind of liking that submission prop. I felt robbed when she didn't submit Maverick when it was like 18-1 submission, and I had that. I felt really bad about that. So Erin's gonna have to be able to time these shots that Andrade throws, these very wide hooks, get in on her hips, get in on her legs, put her down on the mat, and then just progress position to submit her. I definitely think she can do it. I don't think Jessica Andrade on the ground very, very good defensively. Should be an interesting fight. It's very tough though because, like I said, Andrade could mix it up. She could throw these crazy big hooks. She could throw like half kicks and stuff like that as well. So it's gonna be a tough test for Erin. I hope she wins. But I think maybe only a little stab at a submission prop for me.
Yeah, I don't like this fight for Aaron. I didn't like the Talia fight either. I mean, I was just looking over the rankings, and there's not a I mean, I think Miranda was ranked when Erin beat her, but, Erin hasn't fought a single woman in the top 15, and she's ranked 10th, she's jumping all the way up to fight, the number 1, in Santos, and then she gets rearranged to number 3 here in Andrade. I just don't like it, man. They could have done a lot better of a job building her. I just don't think the UFC really respects Erin. If you remember, they tried to bring her in on short notice to fight Norma Dumont at like 135 pounds, I think, even though she was, a really good prospect winning fights in Invicta. I think she was the Invicta champion, right? No, she wasn't. But anyway, like I just don't like this too much for Erin. Just being a fan of her. But obviously, if she passes the test and wins the fight, the sky's the limit. But this is just man, a tough matchup because Andrade is a juggernaut on the feet, man. She kicks calves, she punches really hard in the head, and on the feet here, Erin has nothing for Andrade. I mean, there is nothing that Andrade has to be worried about on the feet here from Erin. Just nothing Erin can throw will phase Andrade. So that allows Andrade to be a lot more focused on the takedown here. She's got to be wary of the takedown attempts, and the fact that there's no striking threat is good for her. So even if she does get taken down, Andrade was able to bounce right back up to her feet, 4, 5, 6 times versus Shevchenko. There were times Shevchenko took her down, put her in side control, and Andrade just stood up in a way that makes no sense. She like put her hands in the mat and just stood up like Valentina wasn't even on top of her. It was incredible. So if Erin is able to get Andrade down here early, I think Andrade will be able to pop back up to her feet for at least a round or two, and then it might be a lot more difficult for her to get up, and Andrade might kind of wilt on bottom in those later rounds. But I just think that Andrade is gonna land some hard shots here on the feet. And if you look at Erin-Blanchfield's fight against JJ Aldrich, I mean, she really struggled taking JJ down. Now I know JJ is tall, she's a southpaw, she's actually a pretty decent fighter, and it's a lot different of a matchup than Andrade is, but you still have
She's
to
a
worry.
ginger. She's a ginger.
That's that's another good point. But I mean, attempted 4 takedowns on JJ Aldrich and failed all of them. Unanimously lost round 1 to JJ Aldrich. She was a minus 700 favorite before the fight and was a pick'em after round 1. So I mean, if she's losing rounds and struggling to take down a fighter like JJ Aldrich, man, I just think that this is really dangerous against Andrade. So maybe it's an irrelevant comparison. Maybe that Andrade's her small frame, will just be easy for Blanchfield to take down. But I just think that Blanchfield, I haven't seen enough in terms of her setups for her takedowns to think that she's going to make this fight look easy. And anytime she's going to be on the feet, I think she's in imminent danger of eating just massive punches. And I think some woman's getting finished here. I think it's either going to be an early KO for Andrade or it's going to be like a mid to late round sub for Blanchfield. I don't really see it going in around 4, honestly. So rare time where you see a women's main event at the under 3.5, but I think it does go under. And I kind of think that playing Blanchfield by sub plus 500 and combining it with Andrade money line is going to cover a lot of outcomes for this fight.
I
So
I predict Oh, sorry. I
Go
thought you were
ahead.
done. I predict Erin will go for at least one leg lock in this fight.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I think Andrade would maybe power bomb her if that happened.
I'd love to see it. I would love to see it.
I think the fight would be going pretty poorly for her if she decides to leg lock. She's gonna get punched in the face if that happens.
Let's see.
Um, I don't know. I'm nervous for Erin for this fight.
You don't know
I
about
hope.
cross. You don't know about cross Ashi. You don't know. Erin does.
Uh, she's saving that for her jiu-jitsu competitions. She don't break that shit out during fights.
Let's see. Maybe you never know.
But yeah, Blanchfield sub 5-1 is good. But man, money line side, bro, it's Andrade. Andrade at this price is the side. I mean, if you're playing Blanchfield at what is this, 47%, but her sub is 16%, you really think that she's a KO or a decision is 30% or plus here? I don't think so. Unless it's like a mounted crucifix. That's the one thing I am worried about because she had that on
Valentina did
on
that.
McCann.
Valentina
Yeah,
did that.
and Erin just did that on Molly McCann, right?
And
So
Valentina did it to.
yeah, and Andrade just gives up free side control. I mean, she sucks at retaining guard and everything. So
Maybe maybe
uh,
maybe the new maybe the new meta in women's MMA is the crucifix. Like
right,
Wei Lee did it from the back, Erin did it from the front. Maybe she could do it from the side now.
right. Yeah, look out for that. The new MMA meta for women. So
These girls they're like doing the like Matt Hughes is doing the BJ Penn in like 2007. That actually, Martian, that makes sense. Like it being like 15 years behind, that kind of makes more or less sense, right? Because we're 10 years in a little bit. So
right, it
interesting.
makes total sense. Yeah.
It actually does. Yeah, it does, right?
My
Matt
pick
Hughes doing that to BJ, and then Molly getting that done to her by Aaron.
my
Actually,
pick is
pretty
Andrade
legit.
KO2. Andrade KO2 is going to be the pick.
Right hook or left hook?
It's going to be an accumulation of punches. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be really
Like
ugly, I think.
you think she's in the top like Cynthia?
I mean, I hope, yeah, I hope because
Northeast, Yo, I don't know, dude. They, in the Northeast, they have a conversation with you before you fight. Like they tell you, like, don't tap to no bullshit ass chokes. I mean, Henzo Gracie, they tell you not
for
even to
women
tap.
they do that too.
Yo, Henzo Gracie, they tell you not even to tap to joint locks, bro. You don't remember Sakuraba breaking all those guys' arms? That's
Yeah, I
crazy.
do, but I do remember Hoist Gacy throwing in the towel
I
after that
remember, I remember,
90th minute.
I remember like the best student in the gym that I went to. He got his knee like popped, like in a knee bar, like the guy just like popped his knee, whatever. Man, they were making fun of this guy for months and saying that like it was bullshit, like his knee didn't go out, anything like that. And then he got the MRI back, and like his whole knee was, exploded.
You
So
know the famous picture of the Gracies thrown in the towel, right? In
which
Pride,
one against him? Oh yeah, yeah,
that's the most like iconic MMA picture in
yeah.
my opinion.
But yeah, I don't think Aaron's in
What's
a
your pick?
hold.
What's your pick for the main event?
Aaron armbar round 2. Let's
Terrible.
go. Let's go. Yes,
Armbar?
sir.
Come on, bro. You
Yes,
really think Andrade just happened into an armbar? She will
Martian.
literally pick her up and slam her.
Martian, do you understand what we're talking about right now? We're talking about women's MMA, motherfucker.
It's
And
gonna have to be a choke.
you're gonna try to scold me and tell me that an armbar is not possible in women's MMA. Are
Not
you
for
crazy?
Andrade, bro.
Are
She
you
will pick you up and
crazy?
have you ever heard
Are you fucking
the
nuts,
Lil Wayne
dude?
song? The Lil Wayne song
I'll
where
pick
Imma
your
pick
shit
you
up and yeah,
slam it
drop
down
it in
your
the
fucking
fucking
head.
head.
Yeah. That's gonna
All right.
happen.
No, motherfucker. She's slamming Rose, dude. Rose, you saw Rose get choked out by Jillian Robertson in like 18 seconds. Like that girl
I
does
did.
barely know jujitsu, dude. Erin Blanchfield is fucking different, dog. Are you kidding me?
She
The-
ain't going for no armbar, bro.
Fucking Rose came up over here. She was like, "What is this Northeast? Like
She's
these
like, "What
people
is this
grapple."
Philadelphia city? I've
They're
never
like,
been to
"Man,
this
these
place
guys are
before."
gritty. These guys are fucking gritty out here, dude." And Erin Blanchfield,
S
bro, she gets Andrade in the armbar, dude. She's ripping that shit off. It's gone.
Nah,
That's what
it
she
ain't
did to
happening.
her. I think that if I remember right, that's what she did to that first girl. Yeah, it was. She did armbar that girl that I saw back in 2017. So history repeats itself, Martian. And just get ready for it, bro. Bet on it.
Okay, I don't know. I think your heart is actually your brain is telling
Jiu-jitsu
you that
works.
Andrade.
You see, we saw with Glover and Jamal Hill that jiu-jitsu doesn't work, right? It doesn't work in men's MMA. In women's MMA, it still works, bro. Like I said, it's in 2007, dude.
I don't think so.
We're in 2007 back then still,
She's
bro.
gonna stand up. She's gonna just
2007,
stand up. She's gonna
2008.
do the Derek Lewis.
What other fights happened in 2008? I'm trying to think.
Let's wrap this up here.
I think that
All
was
right,
Johnny
everybody.
Hendricks versus like, oh no, Johnny
No,
Hendricks
bro.
wasn't, but
No, bro. Johnny Hendricks came in way later than that.
I'm
That's
thinking
like
about light.
fucking.
I'm thinking about who else is. It's like
That's
Diego
like Brock
Sanchez.
Lesnar and Frank Mir.
Diego Sanchez.
There you go, jiu-jitsu right there.
Yeah.
All right. That's enough about this shit. Ozzy might not be with us next week. Oh no, he will. We'll get it done. We'll get it done.
Early recording, pussy.
Right. All right. That'll do it this week. Thank you all for listening. Hope you all win some bets this weekend. Enjoy the fights. We will see you all next week. Peace out, everybody.